Hello and welcome. This video, Providing for Your Beneficiaries, is number 6 in a series of 10 videos designed to educate Utah residents about estate planning. For a list of all of our videos, see below or return to our website. In this video, we will answer the following questions. To whom may I leave my property upon my death? What should I do if I have minor children? What are the possible advantages to leaving property in trust for a grown child? What if we have a blended family? And what if I have a disabled child? For more detailed information, please feel free to visit our website at utahtrustsandestates.com. A typical estate plan will provide that when one spouse dies, all of the couple's property will be available for the surviving spouse. If neither spouse has children from a prior marriage, the estate plan may provide that all of the couple's property will belong to the surviving spouse to dispose of as he or she sees fit. It is common, however, for one or both spouses to have children from a prior marriage. If so, the couple might elect to give the surviving spouse unfettered access over all of the couple's assets. But more often, they will choose to restrict the surviving spouse's access to the deceased spouse's assets by arranging to have the deceased spouse's assets placed in a trust from which, for example, the surviving spouse would receive only the income each year with trust principal available as needed. Then, upon the death of the surviving spouse, the assets remaining in the trust would be distributed to the children of the first spouse. With this arrangement, both the surviving spouse and the children from the first marriage are provided for. The most simple and straightforward way to dispose of your property after both you and your spouse have died is to leave it to the children in equal shares outright, free of trust. But that is by no means required. You can leave your property in unequal shares to your children. You can disinherit one or more, or even all, of your children. And you can leave property to some or all of your beneficiaries, whomever they may be, in trust rather than giving it to them outright. As we will discuss shortly, leaving your property to your beneficiaries in trust may have certain advantages. Of course, if you still have minor children at the time of your death, it is important that you make special provisions for them. As discussed in video number 1 of this series, at the very least, you should nominate guardians who will raise your children. If there are substantial assets involved, whether from life insurance proceeds or otherwise, one common approach would be to provide that your assets go into a single collective trust for the benefit of all of your children until your youngest child reaches a certain age, perhaps 25. The purpose of the trust would be to ensure that all of your children are raised and get through college. Then, when all of your children are grown, the trust would divide into separate equal shares, one share for each child. Even if all of your children are already adults, it may be advisable to provide that each child's share be held in trust for the child rather than distributed outright. In that case, the property would pass not to the child directly, but instead to an irrevocable trust of which the child is the beneficiary. As I will discuss shortly, the child is also often trustee of his or her own trust. There are at least 3 reasons why a parent might create an irrevocable trust to hold a child's inheritance. The most basic reason would be to control the timing and the circumstances under which the child receives the money. Another potentially important reason to create an irrevocable trust is to protect the assets from the child's creditors. The third reason is that leaving the property to the child in trust may reduce estate taxes when the child dies. A survey conducted a number of years ago showed that a large number of lottery winners file for bankruptcy just a few years after winning the lottery. On reflection, the reason seems clear. The lottery winners were unprepared for sudden wealth. Either they were unprepared as consumers, meaning that they spent it all, or they were unprepared as investors, meaning that they mismanaged it. or a combination of both. Many parents do not feel comfortable leaving large amounts of money to their children all at once. They prefer to leave the money to the children gradually so that they learn how to handle it as they mature. Placing the money in an irrevocable trust rather than leaving it to the child outright is a convenient way to accomplish this. In terms of asset protection, if property is left to a child outright, it can be reached by the child's creditors. In some cases, it can also be reached by the child's former spouse. However, if the property is placed in a properly designed irrevocable trust for the child's benefit, it will generally not be available to creditors or former spouses, although it may be available to pay child support or overdue taxes. For this reason, many parents choose to leave their children property in trust rather than outright. In terms of estate tax, if property is left to a child outright, the property will be included in the child's estate for federal estate tax purposes if the child still owns the property at the time of his or her death. However, if the property is left to a properly designed irrevocable trust for the child's benefit, the property will, in most circumstances, escape taxation at the child's death. While most people do not have to worry about estate tax, in light of the current, relatively high estate tax exemptions, if estate tax is a concern, leaving property in trust for a child may be a valuable estate planning tool. If you have a disabled child, or a child who otherwise has special needs, you may want to leave that child's share of your property in trust. The trust will typically provide that distributions are to be made for the benefit of the disabled child's supplemental needs in a way that preserves the child's eligibility for governmental assistance. That concludes this video. I hope you have found it helpful. For more information on this topic, you can visit our website at utahtrustandestates.com or call us at the number you see on your screen. If you would like to watch another video in this series, either click on the appropriate link below or return to our website. Thank you.